everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to make a fall wreath. Here I've got a 14-inch wreath frame from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just showing you a couple of bars. And in between the two crossbars, that's one section. The two inner rings, I'm going to attach one pipe cleaner, and in that same section on the two bottom rings, I'm going to attach two pipe cleaners. So this wreath form has 6 sections, and with 3 pipe cleaners in each section, you'll have a total of 18 pipe cleaners to make this wreath. Now I have a couple of partially used rolls of this 21-inch deco mesh. It's the same color. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and curl the ends, the manufactured ends inside, curl it under, and then scrunch it up and gather it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a zip tie, and on one of those crossbars, I am just going to attach the deco mesh with the zip tie. You don't have to do this. I see a lot of other wreath makers, they don't do this. I like to do it just because it makes it very secure, because I do manhandle my wreaths a little too much sometimes, and so I've had it come out before. And so with me just zip tying it in there, it stays perfect and works just fine. And then I like to trim the excess off. Again, you don't have to do that. It's something that can be tucked away and hidden in the deco mesh after it's been applied. But I like to do that. So I take the zip tie and I measure that I zero it out, and then I measure 10 inches, and I put that 10-inch mark right in top of that pipe cleaner. And then afterwards I just kind of fluff it out a little bit, and then I take that pipe cleaner, and then I take the pipe cleaner, measure that at 10 inches from that pipe cleaner, and again place the 10-inch mark into the next pipe cleaner. And I just go around the whole wreath doing that. And I like to fluff out the little poofs after each one that I put in there. You don't have to, you can save it for later, it's all up to you. Now I have 2 partial rolls because one partial roll is not going to be enough, and I do like to use 10-inch poofs. So I go all the way around the wreath frame doing the 10-inch poofs until I get to the very last pipe cleaner on the outer rim of the wreath frame. And then I just go to that same crossbar that I started off on and attach it to the crossbar, and then again I trim it as well just to give it a clean look. Then what I do, same process, but I start on a separate crossbar, a totally different crossbar next to it, whichever one you want to do, and I repeat the same process and add 10-inch poofs onto the 6 pipe cleaners that's on the inner ring of the wreath form. Now when I get to the end of this same process, I take and tack it down to the crossbar, trim it, and then make sure everything's fluffed out. Now I had this 10-inch burlap and orange deco mesh, and I really liked it. It was nice to work with, but it just stuck to itself too much. And I think this actually came from Joann's, but like I said, it's very nice, pliable, it's soft, easy to work with, except for it sticking to itself. And so what I did here is, I just call it a double curl, is I take the 20 inches and I curl in both sides towards each other until they meet in the middle. and then I just scrunch them in the middle and apply to the pipe cleaner. So I have 18 pieces, which took up the entire roll. So 20 times 18 is 360 inches, which is 10 yards or 30 feet. So I do this process to all 18 pieces, and I add it on top of each of the pipe cleaners. And once I have all the pipe cleaners in, then I take my ribbon tails, which is this beautiful plaid with smoke blue from Hobby Lobby, and then that white pumpkin 2.5 inch from Craft Outlet. I just pinch them in the middle and make them into a V shape, and then I add it right on top of the pipe cleaner that we just added the mesh into. And then I just kind of spread out the tails to make sure they're nice and pretty. I don't know if I said it, but I did cut these at 14 inches. I dovetailed the 2.5 inch ribbon, and I cut the 1.5 inch ribbon at an angle. Now, for those of you that like to see more of the mesh in your wreaths, you definitely can cut the ribbon tails down to 11 or 12 inches. My preference is 14, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean 11 and 12, I meant 13 and 12. I probably wouldn't do anything less than 12 on this, but if you're making the wreath, it's absolutely your preference. While the mesh is beautiful and does make the wreath nice and full, I tend to think more of the ribbons as being the focal point, but everybody's different. So as I attach them, I do end up trimming the pipe cleaner down to 1/4 inch, and I bend them inwards. Now, I did have two areas that did not get ribbon tails in them, because the bow is going to cover that area. So I just opted to not waste the ribbon there. So I'm got my bow maker, and I am starting with my 2.5 inch ribbon, and I'm making a 7-inch tail at the top, 6-inch tails on each side, and then a 20-inch tail towards the bottom. Now I do that with all 3 ribbons. I do have this very pretty orange rust color 1.5 inch from Craft Outlet as well, and it's got just a little bit of animal print in it, and I just thought it was super cute, so I went ahead and added that as part of my bow. Then I'll continue layering the ribbons on, and I think it's like, yeah, it's 2 sets of each ribbon that I do. So now that I have the bow made, I carefully take my bow out of the bow maker, and I use a 22-inch gauge floral wire and to keep my bow together, and then attach it to my wreath form. I just poke it through and tie it around, and then I go back in and I cut my 1.5 inch at an angle and my 2.5 inch ribbon at a dovetail. I just like to cut the 1.5 inch at an angle. That's absolutely up to you. Again, whenever you do wreaths, it's your preference. It's however you like to make them. I definitely would say, learn tips and tricks from everybody else. But I've seen posts on Facebook where people are like, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. And that's not true. Don't feel like you have to make anything just like the way somebody else does. We all have our own little way of doing things and our own vision and our own creativity. So don't be afraid to, or don't limit yourself to what other people may tell you that you need to do. Just, kind of envision what you want to do and just make it happen. So here I'm just putting this metal sign on that I got from Craft Outlet. There was already 2 holes at the tops, but there wasn't at the bottom, so I added some cable mounts and used a little super glue, Gorilla super glue, to attach it. And then I'm using that same floral wire I did with the bow to attach this sign at an angle, slight angle, to the wreath frame. Now I've got these, they were called pull apart leaves in this burnt orange and that smoke blue, which I thought matched this perfectly. And it comes in a longer pick, but I cut it in half. So the top half is 3 leaves and the bottom half is 4 leaves. And so that's all you see me doing here, is taking those cut pieces and gluing them into each area that I put a ribbon tail in. So once I get all those done around the bottom, I go back and I just take a paint bottle, that's all I really had on hand, and I just go and curl my ribbon, the 1.5 inch ribbon tails in. Now, a good thing for you to use is, since you're already having a small, 10-inch deco mesh roll, I could have saved that, but I already threw it in the trash, and so I just opted to use this. But you could definitely use your roll, the cardboard roll that your mesh comes on, and it works perfectly. So I curl the 1.5 inch, and then here I'm just kind of pleating the 2.5 inch just to give it a little bit of character. Not necessary, but I just thought I'd try to do something a little bit different. I didn't measure, kind of just eyeballed the pleating and then just, you know, kind of made it work. So I wanted to put some leaves where the sign was, and so what I did is I cut a blue and an orange in half, and then I put a 3, like the orange here is 3 leaves, the top portion, and on the blue ones it was the bottom portion which had 4 leaves. So I made sure I put the 3 leaves on the top and used a zip tie to catch them, keep them together, and then just glued them into place. Now I do another one just the same, just the opposites though, where the blue is on the front top and the orange is on the bottom, and then I attach it to the wreath just up under the sign. I love how these colors match and everything came through. I honestly didn't buy the leaves for this. I bought the leaves for something else and ended up doing it for this because I thought it was just gorgeous. So, you know, wreaths don't always turn out the way I think. Just along the way they tend to change here and there. So again, just let your creativity run free and create what your heart tells you to create. Now this is the finished product, and it is so stinking cute. I love the smoke blue, and I love the orange, rust orange colors for fall, and I really enjoyed making this video for you guys. So I want to thank you for watching the video with me today, and I hope you have a very blessed week.